My name's Hedwig. I have red socks.
Welcome back to Blood Splatter Chatter. Thank you so much for being here. I got me and my buddy, Mr. Peter Geiger, from the
Hello.
podcast formerly known as Two Geeks, Different Streets. Welcome to the show. This is the first time actually being on Blood Splatter Chatter. It's great to have you here to talk about Split, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to finally be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're not a big horror guy, but like, what is the horror that you are into? I assume much more like newer horror rather than like the old schlocky 80s stuff, right?
Yeah, certainly. I prefer more of like the suspense rather than the gore and
Jump scares.
jump scare stuff. But I mean, suspense has jump scares too, I guess. But I'm not always. Usually, when I feel a jump scare's coming, that's when I start to cover my eyes. Somehow that helps. I don't know why.
Are you like that? Do you scare pretty easily when it comes to like scary movies?
I do. It's like almost like a childish, like I don't like to be scared. So the
Right.
thought of like this movie's trying to scare me makes me scared.
Do you get pissed at the movie when when it gets you?
Not always. They do a good job, but
Right.
yeah, but this movie was right up my alley in terms of like suspense. I'm trying to think like Disturbia, that Shia LaBeouf movie from years ago.
I've
I
never
really
seen that
enjoyed.
either.
That one was very suspenseful for me. I don't know if other people agree with that. I'm not really sure where other people fall.
Right. Or like, what was the one movie that you can think of like when you were a kid that's like, oh my god, that movie scared the shit out of me? For me, it was Pennywise and Candyman. Is there one for you?
I caught it randomly like on cable when I was probably like 10, and it freaked me out a little bit, but I think I was also approaching that age where I was just like, this is kind of weird. And I also caught it in like the middle of the movie, but certainly the movie that got me was Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I somehow saw that on TV when I was really little and just had nightmares, and to this day still kind of have a bird phobia.
That's awesome. That's probably the most highbrow answer that I'm going to get. You make yourself sound rather sophisticated. All right, man. Well, I guess the last thing I was going to ask you, which leads into how I want to start this, talking a little bit about the background info on the film. You have, well, let me just run through. This is M. Night Shyamalan. This is kind of like his return, or the second movie that he did that was successful after a string of slumps. But he started out his career. His third film, it blew up. The Sixth Sense took the world by storm. Everybody knows the twist. You've told me that you know the twist, but you've never seen the movie, right?
That's true. I mean, how many TV shows and movies spoil the ending to The Sixth Sense?
Right.
Like
right.
Scrubs is off the top of my head. There's a whole episode like based on that.
Well, that's always a great indicator of like how big is a movie, is how often is it referenced in other areas of pop culture. Yeah, The Sixth Sense is crazy. I will tell you this. I've talked to other people that had it spoiled for them and then went and watched it. It's still a really good fucking movie, and it's actually pretty scary too. But I was going to ask you, he came out off the bat, Sixth Sense, blockbuster, huge success, Unbreakable with Bruce Willis, Signs with Mel Gibson, and The Village. I can't remember who starred in that one. Those were like his hits. And then he had like 4 flops in a row. Then he came back with The Visit in 2015, Split in 2016, and then its sequel, Glass, which flopped. And then the last couple of years, he did Old, which I thought was pretty good, and Knock at the Cabin Door. Have you seen any of the movies that I mentioned? Any of his early ones, Unbreakable, Signs, or The Village?
I saw Unbreakable when Split came out, and all the news was about that, like he brought back this 16-year-old movie reference at like the end, and so I was like, oh, let me check out Unbreakable and maybe I'll go see Split in theaters. I watched Unbreakable. I thought it was okay, and I don't know if just life got busy or I just lost interest in seeing Split or Glass, but I just kind of never got a chance to see either of them.
Right. I remember liking Unbreakable. It might be a little, I'm trying to think of the year that it came out, because since then, we've been superheroed to death.
Yeah.
And it was like this kind of modern, original, fresh take on superheroes at the time, where it's just barely supernatural, I guess. He's just stretching the limits of reality. And that's really similar to what we get in Split. He's just barely superhuman, you know?
Was it before? Did Unbreakable come out before Spider-Man and X-Men? Like before 2000?
No, I don't think so. Let's find out.
Okay.
I do have access. Oh, well, it came out in 2000. So after Spider-Man, am I right? After the first Spider-Man?
I think that was also 2000.
Fuck. Well, okay.
X-Men and Spider-Man were like a year apart.
Right. So it was right in there with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, like watching it after years of superhero movies, I was just like, this seems like they're trying to grasp it, but missing the punch. But then again, it was a much older movie.
Right, for sure. I was gonna say, man, it was kind of surprising when I started looking at his stats, even like when he had those string of flops, The Last Airbender being the one that's got like 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. Have you seen that?
Yes, I did.
Is
Yeah.
it terrible?
It's terrible. I watched it after I binged the animated series,
Okay.
and I was like, let me just watch it just to see how bad it truly is, and it is totally terrible. And like he changes names and stuff for I don't know what reason, like the pronunciation of names.
Well, I thought what was crazy, I looked at the Rotten Tomato score. I'm like, holy shit, 5%. And then I saw it had a budget of like, I'm guessing these numbers, but it's around there. It was a high budget. It was like an 80 million to $100 million budget, but it made like $250 million. So like people went and saw this piece of shit movie in droves.
But which one's The Visit? I'm blanking on which one that is.
The Visit, I thought it was pretty good. Some people think it's great. It's enjoyable though. It's these two kids go to visit their grandparents, and they've never met them before, and it's their first time meeting them. They get there, and they're just acting strangely. So you're trying to figure out like
the kids or the grandparents or everyone.
The grandparents are acting like very strange. The grandma starts like crawling around on her fucking all fours, chasing the kid around on under the porch and stuff. There's just a bunch of weird events that lead up to a pretty interesting finish to the movie, because that, of course, that's his thing, the Shyamalan twist,
and putting himself in his movies.
Right. I thought this was interesting. Have you ever heard of the sci-fi hoax involving M. Night Shyamalan? Because I had not. You ever heard of that?
No, I have no idea.
Back in the day when The Village was coming out, him and Sci-Fi, I don't know whose idea it was, but
the network Sci-Fi.
Yeah, the network Sci-Fi.
Okay.
They got together as some promotional thing, and they made up this story. And I think like Shyamalan's the one that like pretty much made it up, and everybody ran with it. People had to sign non-disclosure agreements, and there was this whole marketing thing where he made up the story that when he was a young boy, he drowned and he was dead for nearly an hour. And when he came back, he could communicate with spirits. So he pretty much tried to say like he's the kid from The Sixth Sense, and then it came out like somehow it came out that it was a lie, and they had to admit that they made all this shit up. Like
just for
funny,
just for like the press release of his movie that wasn't even The Sixth Sense.
No,
oh my goodness,
I know. It's like that's embarrassing though. I mean, I kind of get it. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool, but it's also like how fucking embarrassing to be found out that you made any lie, especially something like that. You know,
and just I mean. The attempt to lie, I find even stupider than the lie itself. I don't know what I guess it'll get you some publicity. Any news is good news.
Right. Last thing on M. Night, he's got a movie coming out in 2024 called Trap from Warner Brothers. He left Universal, or the contract ran up or whatever, and so he's got a new contract now with Warner Brothers, and his first WB film will be Trap in 2024 with zero details. The cast in this,
okay,
yeah, just the title. The cast in this bad boy, of course, James McAvoy, Scottish actor, who I don't know if I even knew that. I looked at some interviews.
Oh, yeah.
After seeing him do like 40 voices in Split, and then to me, he's got the Xavier Charles, Professor X voice. I just figured that's his normal voice. Nope, not at all. So, of course, X-Men, Wanted, and for horror fans, he was Bill in the latest couple It movies. Did you see those? Either one of those?
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one. He was in. Wow, I forgot. I mostly just remember Bill Hader.
He's the second one is when they bring in the adults, and then he's the lead guy in the second one. I thought it was shit casting.
Right. I forgot that's how it goes. The second one's the adult. Right. Okay. Yeah, I should have watched the second one because I did enjoy the first one. It scared the shit out of me.
Most people don't like it nearly as much. It's a little rougher, but I would say it's worth a watch. It's long as fuck. So again, James McAvoy, and then you've got Anya Taylor-Joy. This was I think it was her second film after The Witch. She was Magic in the New Mutants. She's kind of blown up recently. She's in The Northman. She had I guess you could call it a horror movie thriller, The Menu, last year. She was Princess Peach in the Mario Brothers movie. and she was in the Netflix original series about chess that my fiance just has on repeat at my house. Queen's Gambit. How familiar with her are you?
I was very excited to see her. I was surprised that she was in this. I had no idea. It shows that like when this was coming out, I had no idea who she was. I knew of her through New Mutants first, I think.
Yeah.
And then I watched Queen's Gambit. And what else was it? What was that Edgar Wright movie? One Night in Soho, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. It wasn't terrible.
That's
pretty cool, like trippy movie.
That's what everyone has said about that movie. That's the reaction that I've pretty much gotten from everyone. It was good. It was all right. It was pretty solid. Worth a watch. The last one I wanted to mention was we've got the three girls. I don't have their names written down in front of me, but the therapist, who we'll get into further. Have you seen, I assume at one point in your life, have you ever seen the original Carrie, 1976?
No, but I know of it. So she's in it, I'm assuming?
She is, and a lot of horror fans might be surprised to hear this. I sure as shit didn't know that that's who she was. There's like a teacher in Carrie that's looking out for her. She's kind of on her side, helping her out throughout the movie. That's her. She's like this young woman in that, and it's like completely obviously unrecognizable now. I thought she was great in the film, though.
I wonder if it's kind of like a nod to Carrie, since she's like the one trying to help out and stuff.
Right. But let's go ahead and get into this thing. We're going to run through the plot. We're going to be spoiling some things at this point. Then afterwards, we'll give our overall opinions on the film and a letter grade. Anybody watching on the rewind, or if you're watching on the premiere, let me know what you think of the film down below as well. But let's get into it. The opening scene. This is, I feel like I say this way too much. It's one of the greatest opening scenes in history. It's a really good, to me, like it sucks me in right away. We've got these three girls, one of them being Anya Taylor-Joy. She's the outcast. She's the one that's not really friends with these other girls. But the other girls, they're the popular girls. And this is one of the things I find interesting about that dynamic. They're also the nice girls. So they've invited, or that's how I take it at least.
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you though. You're missing a big line of dialogue, which is Claire, the popular girl whose party it is. She says like, I had to invite her. I can't invite everyone from my art class and not the one weird girl. That's worse than inviting the weird girl to my party.
I say that you're right. You're right. She sounds a little catty at that point. But throughout the rest of the movie, like in a typical horror movie, she would be the bitch.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. She's a more modern day teenager.
But they all go out to the dad's car. Anya Taylor-Joy, she's going to ride in the front seat. The two popular girls are riding in the back. James McAvoy, I don't know if he kills the dad, if he puts him in the trunk, what he does, but the way that they film it, he's just all of a sudden in the car, spraying these girls with some kind of gas and then clearly kidnapping them. What do you think about just the opening scene and just the camera? Like, did you love this as much as I did, the way it was moving around?
Super captivating. I love the use of POV in it. I even that was like one of the first things I wrote down, just like how often they use the POV camera. I don't know what that means artistically, but it's fun to watch.
Right.
And then with this opening, it just makes me wish that like I could see this movie without knowing what the plot is.
I was going to ask you that. You did, huh?
Yeah. Obviously, you watch any trailer and you know exactly what this movie's about. It's just like, I wonder if there's any person out there who has seen this movie without knowing what it's about. I would love to hear their story.
Well, just imagine,
it's probably such a more enjoyable experience just to like naturally figure out on your own. Like, oh, he has multiple personalities. Spoilers.
Right. Right. Well, same thing for a lot of his films. Imagine never having heard what The Sixth Sense was and going and throwing that on. That
true. I wish you don't know what the twist is, I guess.
Right. Yeah. That's more about a twist at the end.
Yeah.
This is the the premise is gonna get spoiled for you. You're right. To go in, especially not knowing like if you just know James McAvoy before this movie, you look at him, you have to look at him completely differently after seeing where he goes in this film. Let's get into that actually. So he kidnaps these girls, he takes them back. They don't know where the hell they're at. They're just in this room. It's the three of them. McAvoy comes in. He's Dennis at this point. He's like the most evil of these identities in Kevin's body, who's the main guy. We'll call him the host. He grabs one of them. He's like, I choose you. He pulls her out of the room. We've got Anya Taylor-Joy telling her, pee on yourself, because she's realized that he has OCD. So he takes her out of the room. The camera, again, like stays in with us.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
They go out there. I love that bit.
I would say that she probably also knows to pee on herself because of her past history.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's another thing we'll get into. Basically, from here on out, the way that the story goes is it's weaving between the girls in the basement, mostly focused on Anya Taylor-Joy, McAvoy going to the therapist, and then these flashback scenes where we find out there was some sort of abuse, some kind of sexual assault in Casey / Anya Taylor-Joy's childhood. It weaves all these things until the peak of the film. So we'll kind of go through those sections of the film. But let's start with the biggest thing that everyone's going to talk about, and that's James McAvoy. We get these three characters that we see him play for the most part. We get other little bits and flashbacks and pieces of video, and then this like outburst at the end where you see him playing like 7 or 8 characters all within 30 seconds. It's amazing. What do you think of the characters, of the performance? Is there one that's your favorite? Is there one that scares the shit out of you? What do you think of McAvoy in this movie?
I mean, he's unbelievable in this. Just like not only doing all these different roles and personalities, but how quickly he can change in between them. And especially when you get to see that happen on camera, it's some of the best moments of the film. Favorite personality, something about Dennis. I just really find that like the most intriguing to watch. He's just, it's all about the body language with him. Every personality, he has different body language, but when he's Dennis, it's just like, I think that's the most scary too, because you really don't know what Dennis is like from the start, and he seems much more reckless and dangerous than I think like he ends up being.
Right. Yeah.
Because he's like, if I can go into hit Dennis's backstory, he does like to watch young girls dance in their underwear, but he says later he's trying to be good.
Right.
Even though he's killing people.
That makes me think, like, I wonder, did they get arrested in the past? Like, how do they know that? Has he just admitted to the therapist? Did they find out? Because they say the therapist says at one point that the other identities had got together and banned Dennis from the light. Like, he's this hidden identity that's now come to the surface. Same with Trisha. Yeah, he's fucking terrifying, dude. And Hedwig is the one that when he comes in, he's the comic relief of the whole movie. The first thing he says, "Hi, my name's Hedwig. I have red socks." It's just like, etc. The way he says etc.
I love, he just picked like the one new word a little kid learns and just uses it almost incorrectly.
Right. Constantly. Yeah, frequently. That's the bit where like James McAvoy, that's where he's like gotta really trust M. Night Shyamalan and the actors that he's working with. Like, they had to, at least I'm putting myself in that position. You've got to feel pretty goddamn comfortable to go to that place.
And then the opposite side of that spectrum is turning into the beast. Like, what he has to do to film those scenes in front of these other actors is just like, it's insane.
Right. Let me ask you a weird question. What do you, because me and my fiance were talking about this, in your head, what do you picture when you picture Kevin's headspace? Like, what kind of light is this?
I pictured a dark, empty room, which is like you can't even see the walls. The only thing lighting it is this one spotlight that beams down onto like all the chairs in a circle. And I think, when it's someone's turn to take the light, they stand up and walk towards the light. That's kind of what I pictured. But it's also like, I don't know, they make it pretty clear early on that the personalities can't really communicate with each other, only in rare occurrences. So it's like, I don't know, there's always many moments where it's like Hedwig says like, they won't make fun of me anymore. It's like, when are these personalities making fun of you?
I must have missed that bit where they said that the identities inside of his head can't communicate with each other.
It's when the doctor is having her little Skype session. I think she says like, only in rare occurrences can two personalities exist in time. I think that's just to give us some, just to remove a plot hole later in the movie when like Patricia and Dennis are kind of like sharing the body back and forth to talk to each other.
Right.
I think.
I think I was taking, and maybe I'm not even remembering that specific part. I think I was maybe taking it as like whatever the person that's in the light at the time, whatever they do, the other ones aren't necessarily aware of. If you're not in the light, you don't know what the person is doing with the body at the time.
Certainly.
But I didn't think of it as like them being, because I do picture it them being in that room, same thing. You can't see the walls. It's all black. There's one light hanging above. For me, it was just a light bulb. And it's like you go sit in that chair that has the light. And I just thought it was interesting because my fiance, she pictured it as like they're all passing around like a candle
Oh,
or
that's
some
cool. I
kind of
love how
like
everyone's
torch.
interpretation is different.
Right. I thought
Yeah.
that was cool. It's like I like that they left it open. They never showed us it. They could have
Totally.
easily just taken us in the head and showed us a room full of McAvoys.
Yeah. Like
Which
a
actually would have
be
been
in
kind of
John
cool.
Malkovich kind of
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. That would have been kind of badass the more I think about it. Here's another thing, man, that I thought like the way, well, let me start here. Did you have any problem believing that these were different characters? Like when he turned into Hedwig, that's no longer Dennis. He's not a threat anymore. Like, did you bought all that?
Yeah, except I always had these like when like Hedwig's talking and like Casey gets like super close with
Mhm.
him, I was just waiting for like all of a sudden he just changes into Dennis or someone scarier. Like that's I think that's when I get scared the most in these movies is like when the camera brings you in close just to scare you
Right.
like right away. But I don't think that ever happened. When Hedwig doesn't like he never really like when he's losing control, it's never immediate. It's always like he'll like
Right.
kind of like that.
He never does, because I felt the exact same way, especially the first time I saw the movie. In that specific moment when she's bringing Hedwig in, and I love the camera placement allows it so you can see the girls in the background and you can see their reaction to
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy getting closer to this guy that's just kidnapped him. But like, here's what I was gonna ask, because I'm sure it crossed your mind at some point, like, just fucking grab something and smash Hedwig
Yeah.
over the head with something. Is there any part of you that like is also at the same time like, oh, he's just a kid. Don't hurt him. He seems like he's pretty nice, right? Like, did you think that at all?
No, because I feel like Hedwig was probably the least believable personality. Just because it's like still this really muscular adult
Right.
man. And also I kind of pictured like anytime if they were to like attack him, he would just change into Dennis immediately, who's like unhumanly strong.
Right. Well,
For some weird reason.
I love the way that they demonstrate that. That's one of the first signs that we get. And then the therapist later on in this Skype meeting that she has, she kind of explains to everybody how DID works and how Kevin's headspace works and all this, how some identities can have diabetes. Turns out that's a pretty controversial statement right there. But a lot of the things that she said, like it really can be where some identities their eye color will switch. And like a lot of weird physical things will change when they switch identities. But the first thing that we see here is they at one point they close Hedwig out of the room where they're trying to get into that they're trying to escape through the ceiling.
Yeah.
And Hedwig is pushing and he can't get the door open. He walks away, becomes Dennis, and then comes back and just opens the door. Like that
So
was
easily.
a great
Does
demonstration.
Does he change clothes?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he takes the time to change clothes.
I
Because
know.
of course Hedwig would have like the most disgusting, just like food stained clothes on him.
Right. Fucking booger wipes
Yeah.
and all that shit. What was the other thing I was gonna ask you about this bit of the movie? I guess that was it, man. I guess we already touched on it a little bit, but overall, like, what did you think of the girls in the film, Anya Taylor-Joy, and I don't have the actresses' names for the other one, but the characters are Claire and Marcia.
Yeah.
They spend a good part of the movie where Claire is the leader, and she's like trying to motivate the girls, like, we gotta beat this dude's ass when he comes in, we gotta escape, we gotta stay together. And Anya Taylor-Joy is very, I don't know if submissive is the right word, but she's just like, no.
I think submissive is the right word considering what she went through in her past.
What do you think of just those three in general and their plight in the film?
I think you started off pretty good. Like, yeah, Claire's certainly trying to be the leader. She's like the popular girl. And yeah, Casey's almost like, no, I've kind of been in this situation before, kind of like, let's just do what he says and we'll figure it out later or something.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing about Claire, for some reason, she knows a lot about like contracting. She like knows about the drywall. She knows about the slide lock later on, like by name specifically. Like it's not just like
that's hilarious.
I don't know. It's a weird little. Maybe there's a deleted scene earlier or a line I missed where
Right.
it's like her dad's a contractor, but
he didn't look like it.
He didn't. For some reason, she knows. She's like, oh yeah, that's new drywall.
And he looked like a dentist.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
And then she like named the lock. She was like, I forgot what she called it. Did I write it down?
She gives it a brand name. Oh, it's a
Slide balls.
craft
Yeah, she says. Yeah, she's like, use the coat hanger and move the slide lock, which is like, it's almost like she knows the exact
right,
name of it.
right.
I don't know. It's
That's
just
not. I would call it the slidey lock. The one that does this, do that. It feels
yeah.
like
What
one of
does a
those.
teenager need to know about drywall and
Another
slide
thing
lock?
about that scene right there that you're talking about, because we can kind of jump into. We touched on the therapist, but there's a part in the movie. This whole time, the therapist, she knows something's going on. One of the alters keeps waking up at night, taking the light, emailing her for an emergency session,
But
and then
nothing more than just emergency session.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then Dennis takes the body back over. He goes to the session. So we never, she never gets the truth there. Although we do get the scene where he does reveal himself in therapy as Dennis. And that might be my favorite bit of the whole movie, especially it's definitely my favorite bit of acting from McAvoy when he's acting as Barry. And then we just see him in one shot, straighten himself up. So I saw some video where they pointed out like he takes the placement of his chin and he changes it for each altar, which really like changes the shape of his face in a way. Wow. And then of course his posture and everything about him, like he fucking sells it so damn well right there. But at one point in the movie, she becomes concerned towards the end of the flick. She shows up at Dennis's place, meets him outside, asks to come in. They're having a meeting where he explains the philosophy of the beast. I thought it was kind of weird. What did you think of this? She's like, can I use your bathroom? And he's like, sure, it's right there. And then you find out, fuck, they've been sitting there having this conversation right next to where he's got these girls locked up in the hallway right there.
And he lets her walk past the rooms with the girls in it.
Yeah, it's like she knows. It's almost like she knows she's going to find something and that she's fucked after that. But what did you just think of this scene where she goes in and she finds Claire in the room and just Claire's reaction and then just the acting that we get in this scene from the therapist, Betty Buckley.
I thought it was great. Like, because we hadn't seen Claire since she was put in that closet, I think, too. So we honestly had no idea, as an audience, had no idea what happened to Claire, if she was dead or what, Dennis did something to her. So that was like such a suspenseful reveal when the doctor opens the door. And then, of course, you just know that, Matt was going to show up behind her, which he does in a very creepy way. I want to go back to the beast, though. The doctor keeps saying, like, these are just stories, like the stories that Dennis and Patricia know of the beast. Like, where did these stories come from? It's almost like they uncovered some ancient text or something.
Right.
But they're just, did the alters simply just like come up with this on their own?
That's what it seems to be the only explanation to me.
Yeah.
That one of them has created this. It seems like Trisha has created it because she does seem the female alter. She seems to be the one that's kind of running Dennis, even though we see more of Dennis, probably because he's just more intimidating. She seems to be the one pulling the strings overall. But no, that's a good point. Where did they get this?
Like, if all of a sudden Patricia was like, there's another one who can fly, would eventually, if she convinced enough people, would he be able to fly then?
Do they have Wi-Fi in Kevin's headspace? Are there books? Is there a library? It seems like it. So let's touch on this before we get to the end. So throughout this whole movie, I don't know about you, but like as I'm watching the movie this time through and the other time that I watched, it's really like, for me, it's a popcorn movie. It's a popcorn horror film that has some deeper elements to it, but somehow still feels like a popcorn movie to me. And I'm laughing quite a bit, mostly at the Hedwig moments. Hedwig is intentionally the comic relief of the movie. Some of the stuff, even with Trisha, the first time that you met Trisha, and she comes in the female altar, he's like, "I've told him you are not to be touched." And the little like faces that he's making are clearly comical.
Yeah, so, even Dennis is like I color labeled the bottles for you, blues for the toilet.
You do a pretty goddamn good Dennis, brother. You spent some time in New York, I think.
I assume that's where Dennis is from.
Now, can you tell me, another one of my friends, I feel like almost everyone that I do shows with lives in New York these days. What borough is that accent from? Is that a Brooklyn thing? Is that a Bronx accent? Where would you pinpoint Dennis?
I assumed Brooklyn.
Okay.
But then I also thought Barry was from Brooklyn too. I guess they could both be from the same place.
Right.
But I live in Brooklyn, so maybe I'm just biased.
Right. What was I going to ask you? Oh, so this whole time we're being entertained, not just with the drama, but with humor, laughing at a mental illness is what it really fucking boils
Shit,
down
you're
to.
right.
Like, and I'm not the prude type. I'm not like, fucking ban this movie. Let's burn all of our split Blu-rays. It's not like that. But at the same time, I could see why some people would take offense to the film. I've seen articles and I've seen where people have said it's pretty irresponsible. You've got people walking around living their life with DID, and you're pretty much telling them like, oh, well, if they've got enough personalities in there, one of them's bound to be evil. Like, watch out for this person. And obviously that's not true, although it is possible. Like, any one of us could be fucking evil, and I could be evil as fuck, and I've only got one personality. So anything's possible, but I do see why it could be perceived as irresponsible to write this movie. Do you have any thoughts on this? Did it cross your mind?
It certainly did. Well, I was just like, I can't help but wonder how the public or just the science community or the mental health community reacted to this. I'm sure it's not bringing the best awareness to the serious disorder.
Right.
It's like almost like fetishizing it. Fetishizing. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for attempting it.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like that. Like, I feel like sci-fi and superhero movies kind of do that every now and then, not in the best way, of just like a disability is, I don't know. Yeah. Fetishizing just it into like a superpower.
Right. Well, I didn't finish the series, although I was enjoying it for whatever reason. I never finished Moon Knight. I'm assuming you did. You're a pretty big
I never
comic book
finished
guy.
it. Oh, right.
Did you,
You're a father.
yeah. Did you enjoyed that, right? It's pretty much it's dealing with
that's
the same
true.
thing, but and I didn't finish it, like I said, but the one article that I read that was kind of like fact or fiction, split what was real, what wasn't. It said that Moon Knight handled the subject matter in a much more respectful and realistic way.
That doesn't surprise me. I feel like, just considering the years in between both of these coming out, like,
right, and
people making Moon Knight.
Disney does their homework when they find out who's going to be offended by what.
Exactly. Yeah. And they probably looked at Split and were like, this is what to do, this is what not to do.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about Moon Knight. I did finish the series. They seemed to touch on it more gently, and just to show you how much more difficult it is. They didn't really use it comically as much. Damn, I also haven't watched Moon Knight in a long time.
Right. Well, it's there's something about this particular mental illness, which even that there's probably people that if they do have DID, they don't like it to be referred to as a mental illness, but that's I don't know what else to call it. That's the technical term, I
mental
believe.
Disorder.
If I'm wrong about that, then I apologize. But it unfortunately has more potential than any other mental illness that I can think of to fucking entertain us, because it really allows these actors to flex their muscles and fucking show off in a big time. McAvoy in this, Oscar Isaac in Moon Knight. Have you ever seen or heard of a show called The United States of Terror with Toni Collette?
No, I haven't.
It is unbelievable. It's actually it's got kind of a similar tone to this, minus the horror aspects of it, but just it's a drama, but it's a comedy. It deals with these deep issues, but in a very funny way. And it's even the same thing in that, where Toni Collette, who, for those that don't know, that's the mom from Hereditary, and she's one of my favorite actresses in the world. She's unbelievable, but she's got a child alter, she's got a teenage crazy alter, she's got a slut alter, but she's a mom. So it's this family drama with her just playing all these different characters.
Oh wow,
unbelievable, dude. It's been some years since I watched it, but we loved it, dude. I highly recommend checking it out. But yeah, I guess it's unfortunate for people that are offended by it that it's so fucking entertaining. Like,
I'm sure
to watch actors play with this.
Almost use it as like a plaything, as a toy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's what other mental illness can you think of that? I mean, I guess it's the same thing when you think about people that have played people with God, I'm struggling to find all these proper terms, because the terms are always changing. But when you think about Leonardo DiCaprio and What's Eating Gilbert Grape, or even Forrest Gump, or a lot of different ones. What's that? God damn it. What's Tropic Thunder?
I can't help but think of the quote from Tropic Thunder, which I don't want to say right now.
Google it, folks. Google it.
Yeah, Google it.
But yeah, it's just I guess we've touched our bases on that. It is one of those things that I did think about in the movie, but it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it. And if that makes me a piece of shit, then I apologize, people.
I guess this movie does have. I accept your apology. I guess this movie does have an excuse to be like, this is science fiction. This is superheroes. This is superpowers. Like, we're not trying to say this is what DID is really like.
Right.
I guess
exactly.
they do have that.
The dude crawls on the wall coming up and he gets shot with a shotgun. So let's get into that bit. Basically, the way it goes down is the Beast does take over. They've been saying that he's on the move. He is coming like winter in the Game of Thrones. And by the end of the movie, he has arrived. Yes, Peter.
Why go to the train station to pick up the Beast?
I have no fucking idea.
Why?
That's a great question.
Why did you have to go to the train station, go in an empty train car?
You know what, dude? I've watched this movie 2 times now, maybe 3, and that's never crossed my mind once. And I've always seen, he does go there. He goes to the train car. It's empty. He gets down on all fours, becomes the Beast. He doesn't like wreck shop on the bus or
he just
train,
runs back to the zoo from the train station.
He
doesn't even take the train to the zoo.
That's fucking hilarious. If anybody has any answers for that, put it down in the comments below.
I was thinking, I was like, at first I thought they were going to go into this thing of like, the Beast is not another personality. He's like a spirit that enters a broken mind, almost like a green door in the Immortal Hulk situation. And that was like, maybe you need to go to a certain location to like welcome the Beast. But now it's for some reason just looked cool.
Yeah,
I was on a train.
They must have thought like, you know where he'd look good is on a train. That would kill. Oh, with a bunch of people. Yeah, no. Get the people
empty
off.
Train.
Empty train's gonna fucking crush it. So McAvoy, Kevin, is now the Beast. He's running around. He gets at one point Anya Taylor-Joy. After a lot of running around, a lot of chasing, she says his full name,
which
I'm forgetting it. Kevin Wendell Crumb.
There you go.
Which is his. I guess did a little research, and this is it. There's some truth to this, only because Kevin Wendell Crumb was what his mother used to say when she was being crazy and abusive mother. Kevin Wendell Crumb. So the fact that his name is linked to his childhood trauma could be something that actually is semi-feasible.
It made a lot of sense
that
to
could
me.
Bring him out.
Yeah,
of it.
It's almost like it's like a literally triggering like sentence to him to hear that.
Right, exactly.
It like brings his main personality to the forefront. And
we get a pretty cool scene where all of a sudden it's a new character, and he's like, "What have I done? Who are you?" He said, "What the fuck? I was on a bus."
Is it still like, 2015?
Yeah. He says the exact date and shit. It's like I would have to look that up even today. You know what I mean? But he says the exact date. Is it not this day? I was on a bus, and he's like, "Did I hurt you?" And she's like, "Yeah." He looks down, and I'd missed this earlier, but after the therapist had found the girls locked up, he like becomes the Beast and bear hugs her and like breaks her body. So she's lying on the ground broken. He's like, "Who did that?" And she's like, "You did." And he's like, "I have a shotgun. It happens to be right fucking behind you. Turn around and grab it.
Yeah.
There's shells out here. Will you do me a favor and kill me?" One of the other alters hears this, because that's the thing. You can't say his name, because you'd be like, why don't you say his name all the time and let the guy live his life? If you say his name and he comes out, all the other alters go grabbing for the light. So
it's like they like swatted that light bulb over all the chairs, and it's just like picking randomly,
swinging around. Exactly. They're all reaching and grabbing for it. And it's another great scene where McAvoy gets to really flex his muscles. He's bouncing back and forth between all these different characters. When he becomes Barry, and he's like, "Oh, honey," like I love that, where he all of a sudden like they get to the altar that's going to be like less worried about their situation and more worried about this girl. And just like this feels so real to me, and so like so
I really like the historical one who's like comparing everything to like ancient Egypt or something.
Yeah, in the year 1749. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. That's one of the like, when I listen to the voice that he does, I'm like, I think they could have worked on that one. They could have workshopped that voice just a little bit.
What is that guy's personality? He just loves to lecture.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing that I heard. The way, and I read this in like I read like a whole thing that's in like a nurse's book on DID and like how you would deal with these people in real life and how you would treat them. in this nurse's book, it pretty much explains that the main reason why almost all identities are formed within someone with DID is as a protector role. They're always come in like the kid will be feeling too weak, so they'll create a stronger identity that'll come in and protect the kid or whatever. So that's one of the biggest like gripes people have with it. Like, what would be the point of this history guy?
Totally.
Most of these identities don't seem to be there to help. They're just there so James McAvoy can look cool.
I did have those thoughts of like, why does he need to be a kid? But I guess there are some reasons.
Right. Well, my thought was, I thought this was kind of interesting. It's like, why is there a kid, and why is he the only one that can step into the light whenever he wants? And my thought was, any identity is going to have a child version of it. So I don't know. That was kind of where my thought was of it. It's like that kid, all of us have a kid within us, so the kid can always come to the light. Like you can, you know what I mean? Like if you get around enough kids, you get in the right mood, your inner child is still in there somewhere and he can come out, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. My thought was like, I thought they all had like unique powers, but I guess that's not true. Cause like Dennis is like superhumanly strong, but like not as strong as a beast. And Hedwig can come to the light whenever he wants, but those are like the only powers, right?
Right. Yeah. As far as I know.
Yeah, unless you count being diabetic, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So through all this shit, he's going back and forth through these characters, and at one point, Hagrid gets the light back.
Oh yeah,
he gets the light back. He dishes it off to Trisha. It's funny because McAvoy's been wearing like this like towel over his shoulders. Once it's Trisha, she takes it up and she covers her breasts up, and she explains, "We are back in control." So somehow she ends up getting out at one point. Oh, I know what it is. This is the whole thing. There's this big chase scene. He ends up getting shot. Earlier, he got stabbed. We see him crawling up the walls. When he gets stabbed, the knife just breaks in half. When he gets shot, it doesn't go through his skin. So it's full on supernatural, the beast. He's chasing her down. She ends up behind bars at one point. And there's been this whole thing throughout the whole movie where he keeps taking the girl's shirts. It's like, oh my God, you got a piece of food on your shirt. Give me a shirt. And like, it gets down to where it's her last shirt. And it gets pulled up and she's got this like, what would you call it? Like she's got like a wife beater it's showing her stomach.
Tank top.
Crop top.
Yeah.
Crop top, tank top. The midriff is exposed. And you can see where she's got all these cuts and scars all over her body.
And on her shoulders too.
So the thing that we haven't mentioned throughout the show too much is that we mentioned they keep on doing these flashbacks to where it's her uncle, who when we first meet the guy, fucking seems like a great guy. The actor or actress,
I had weird feelings about him.
Did you?
But then I couldn't explain it.
Friendly. Like he just looks like a really friendly guy. Like, and then the actress that plays young Anya Taylor-Joy is the cutest little girl that I've ever seen in my life. She got these giant eyeballs, just like Anya Taylor-Joy does. Crazy cute. I actually looked up her to see if she's done anything since. She's done very little since this movie. I think she decided to get out the game, but it's too bad because she's so adorable. But we find out that this uncle ended up molesting her as a child. It's fucking hard to watch. They don't show anything graphic, but it's, for me, that is always probably bar none like the most difficult content, like the subject matter I want to see in movies the least. So it's always like cringy and you're just kind of waiting for it to fucking go by. But it's also something that I think it's important to deal with. I think they dealt with it in a respectful and, you know, in a good way. But what did you think of that aspect of the story? Is it the same for you, where it's like cringy and hard to watch?
It certainly is hard to watch. I did not see those hunting scenes going that way. I thought it was going to be more of a violent accident or jealous brother type of thing. But I really like the parallels. It's weird to say I liked it, but you know, he tells her like, let's play animals. Let's take our clothes off and play animals. And that's kind of what's happening. James McAvoy, like he's the beast. He's an animal. Like it's a really cool, you know, parallel.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, no, it's well written and it's really great. But that's another bit where it's like, it's surprising that the movie has the tone that it has with dealing with this subject.
You're so right. Yeah.
How many popcorn movies can bounce back and forth between dealing with a very serious mental illness, dealing with child molestation, but still not make you feel like you watched a movie that is dealing too much with those two
But
things.
does that all that like having all of that in there, the humor, the darkness, everything, is that too much for you, or do you think they balance it? M. Night balances it well.
I think personally, I think it's balanced well. It's like I don't like that part of the movie. I could almost deal without it, but I do think it's done well, and I do think it definitely pays off because they make it the whole thing where the beast whole thing is that he wants these unpure souls.
I really thought at first when they were talking about like the untortured souls or what that it was like virgins. That's what they were referring to.
Right. So did I.
And then I was like, oh, he's gonna find out that she was molested, and it's like, what's he can't eat her, and it's a weird thing to talk about. But
no. I mean, I get it, but it's a good point. I couldn't see it going that way. I'm glad it didn't go that way. It didn't look at her as like, oh, she's unclean because that happened, which is that's a much worse message, right?
Yeah. But so I guess the beast gets powers from eating the souls of people who didn't have a hard life.
Exactly. And they said next time it's going to be 10 to 12 souls that they're going to eat.
So do you think it implies that Casey could have developed DID, considering she had a really traumatic childhood and possibly also like developed another personality to protect those terrible moments?
I mean, I think it implies that she could have, but I don't. Do you think it implies that she did?
No. It's certainly the movie seems to imply that like anyone with a traumatic past has this potential to be post-human or whatever.
Right. I found it interesting. I saw this is another thing. I'm kind of stealing this from some. I read a couple articles. I wish I could credit who it was.
Don't read articles. It's not good for you.
They just brought up the idea, and I've said this before. This is one weird thing about making content is that, especially like this is a pre-recorded thing, so I will be editing this. I'm going to go back at one point and I'm going to see us together, right? And I'm going to see the way I act with you, and then I'll have my buddy Robbie on. I'll see the way I act with him. I go on Dylan's horror show and I see the way I can like literally see myself acting different around different people. DID is just like extending that. The next bit, Dennis, Trisha, and Hedwig still have control of Kevin's body,
having a conversation at the same time.
Yeah, and they're planning on like taking over the world. Pretty much is what it sounds like. Clearly, this leads into Glass, which I haven't seen. I'm very curious to watch it now, even though I've heard nothing but bad things. I've got to watch this movie.
I watched it today.
Oh, you did?
I watched Split yesterday, and I was so captivated by it that I was like, let me just watch Glass today since I have the time.
Can you give me like a 30-second your thoughts on it, just real quick? Did you like it? Is it worth my time to check it out?
It's not worth your time.
Really?
I honestly, like, they set up a lot and it's really cool, but I just don't think the ending lands. I was like audibly like just sighing and being like, this is lame by like the main climax. It was I don't know. M. Night kind of tried to like, it was almost like when they brought in like the Defenders, like that TV show with like they brought in Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones. It's like you have these, I guess, two separate movies, and you're just trying to bring like all these characters. And they brought back
Samuel L. Jackson.
But not just him, but like the son from Unbreakable, the same actor.
Oh,
Anya Taylor-Joy is in it as well. It's
just she is.
Yeah, I was surprised that she was going to be in it too.
Like quite a bit.
Yeah, actually, and you do find out what happens to her uncle.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So
it's disappointing, man.
Exactly. It changes Split, I think.
Really? Like maybe I'll just fucking stay away from it. One thing I was thinking about Glass while watching this, it's just like what I was saying earlier, that vulnerable place that McAvoy had to go to play that role. I mean, I'm sure he still does it well in Glass, but there's all these. He's not just like in a basement with one person anymore. It's different to take that character. The one scene that I saw like in previews, he's in a group therapy thing where there's a bunch of people around. It's a different vibe taking that character out into the real world.
Yeah.
Would you say like that aspect of it? What's the entertainment level that you got from McAvoy in that movie?
So it basically is more of a Unbreakable sequel than a Split sequel, I'd say, because it focuses on Mr. Glass. And I don't know how much of that movie you remember.
A fair amount.
Okay. But they certainly just give you as much of McAvoy as the audience demands for. Like so many almost unnecessary scenes of him bouncing between personalities on screen,
etc.
Yeah, it's like a lot of nice callbacks, but at the same time, it's just like this movie's called Glass, and it's like almost that James McAvoy is the main character.
Interesting. Well, good, dude. I'm glad one of us watched it to have a little something to say on it. So stay the fuck away from it, people. It sounds like. All right. So we've went through this movie. We've shared quite a bit of our opinions. I am curious to know your overall thoughts, Peter. What did you think of Split? Your first time watching it. What'd you think, bro? And you can go ahead and give your letter grade at the end of this too. Anybody, again, if you're down in the chat, put the letter grade down below. If you're watching in the premiere, I would love to know what you thought of Split.
I give it a B, maybe a B plus. I really enjoyed it as a suspenseful movie. Start to finish, I was like on the edge of my seat. Some complaints here or there, certainly, about like the whole DID stuff and just like how these personalities interact. But I guess like, the brain is a mysterious thing that we still don't understand. And when it comes to movies and media, we tend to just like turn it into magic sometimes for storytelling. And that's kind of what it feels like in this movie a lot. But yeah, still a recommendable movie.
Hell yeah. I was right there with you. At one point I was like, oh fuck. Right after I watched the movie, this happens a lot. I was like, it's a fucking A. I mean, this movie's great. And then like certain things kind of dwelled with me where I do think they explain this is a mainstream movie, so it's not like they were supposed to make it. They need to explain it in this type of movie, but I do think they kind of laid it on pretty thick what the Beast was the whole time and like where the movie was going to go. I wish they were a little bit more like subtle about that, so it was more of a surprise at the end. That's a minor nitpick.
No, I agree with you on that. Like it's the Beast itself reveal and stuff doesn't land as hard as it would have.
The very first time I watched the movie, I was fucking loving it. And then the reveal for the Beast, I didn't like. I was like, that was fucking stupid the way it ended. I wouldn't go as far as saying I don't like it anymore. It's just, it doesn't like blow me away at the end. And I think they could have been more subtle with some of the bits there. So I think as just like a film, the story is solid. It's a well-written movie. This is one of the things that I always hear about M. Night Shyamalan is he's a better director than he is a writer. And I think, honestly, first of all, he's an original writer. He makes original ideas. Certainly. That's why I think this movie 20, 30 years from now will be getting a remake. Like, because of the idea. It's a good fucking idea. I said that A Quiet Place. That's another like modern movie that's like, oh, how do we not think of that? Like people will remember this movie for a long fucking time. Even if it's not one of the best movies, Split is a cool, original, unique, fresh idea that it's got legs on its own. So the idea was great. The directing, though, it makes me want to like study M. Night a little bit more because, like, damn, like I've heard from multiple people, they said that they think this is his best job as a director.
I kind of agree. I haven't seen many of his other films, but I thought the directing and cinematography were beautiful in this.
I would have a hard time believing that it's not his best director job. It's just so smart. The cinematographer is the guy that did It Follows. And I guess he watched that and was like, oh, let's get him, which I love that. I love that. I don't know that he has the ability to go out and be like, oh, I love this guy. Let's go get that. Same with like the person that does the sets. She did the sets for True Detective, and he's just sitting at home watching shit and like appreciating certain aspects of certain things and being like, let's fucking make a movie with all these different geniuses out there.
He's just picking his toys.
Right, exactly. But so I think the movie is pretty much a B. But McAvoy's performance is going to take it to a B+ for me. It's one of the most entertaining performances you could ever see. It's a shame that he didn't win like an Oscar. I'm actually really curious who won the Oscar for Best Actor.
Did he get nominated at all for this?
I don't know, man. The movie came out in 2016. So I would be looking at the 2017 Oscars, right?
Is that how it works?
I don't know. I think it does.
Or you could look at the Golden Globes too, if people count that.
Best Actor 2017. I'm just going to see who won it. Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, that was a controversial win.
Was it?
As Brie Larson gave him the award and refused to like acknowledge him.
Really?
Because he like molested people when he was directing them, I think. I don't know if that's the true story. Please don't attack me.
You heard it here first, folks. Peter's email is.
I just dropped like the most triggering celebrity name.
All right, let's wrap it up, folks. No, but okay. So a B from you. First of all, I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. I'm glad you did this. This was awesome. It's great just to see your face, but I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. I'm happy to have you back on the show. A B+ or B from Peter, a B+ from me. Again, let me know what you thought down below. This is kind of weird because I'm pre-recording this, so I got to try and think of what is coming up next week, and I've got it. I plan to do. Hopefully, it's still what I'm planning to do, and it is coming out next week. I'm doing double feature: Child's Play 2 and 3. We did Child's Play 1 last month with Robbie and Perry, and the whole reason I'm squeezing all these in is because The Bride of Chucky is releasing on 4K, and I have big plans to do a Bride of Chucky show coming up sometime in September. So get excited about that if you are a Chucky fan or a slasher fan. But all right, everybody out there, I really appreciate you. Hit the like button, sub up to the channel. Again, comment down below. Again, I appreciate you, Peter, and everybody. We'll see you next time.